Some public debates don't just feel urgent, they feel overwhelming. Suddenly, an issue that most people rarely ever thought about becomes framed as an immediate threat. Headlines multiply, language sharpens, certainty rises. And if you slow it down, something becomes clear. Moral panic isn't random, it follows phases. Not always intentionally, not always maliciously, but predictably. So instead of arguing about any one topic, let's look at the pattern itself. Because once you see the phases, you start recognizing them everywhere. Moral panic almost always begins with something emotionally sensitive. It's often children or overall safety or the general identity or some new social change. The trigger doesn't have to be large, it just has to be emotionally resonant. And here's the important part, the trigger usually begins with a real event, but that event becomes symbolic. A single case becomes representative. A single story becomes a warning sign. At this stage, the issue feels specific, localized, even manageable. But the emotional framing has already been set. An emotional framing spreads faster than nuance. That's phase one. Next, the issue shifts from incident to pattern. Language starts to change. Instead of this happened, it becomes this is happening. The conversation moves from one event to a trend. And once something is framed as a trend, people begin imagining the scale. The mind fills in blanks, even without widespread data. The perceived risk expands before the evidence does. And once threat perception rises, rational evaluation becomes secondary. Because fear narrows thinking. That's not weakness, that's just human psychology. At this point, complexity becomes inconvenient. Nuance slows momentum. So the issue gets compressed. It becomes binary. Good or bad, safe or dangerous, protect or destroy. Simplification is powerful. It allows for quick agreement. It also allows for fast mobilization. But it removes context. When a complex social issue becomes reduced to one defining feature, the entire debate narrows around that feature. And people begin arguing symbols instead of mechanisms. That's when panic accelerates. Once simplified, repetition begins. Media coverage increases, commentary multiplies, social media fragments the discussion into viral clips. Each repetition reinforces urgency, even if the underlying data remains limited. Psychologically, repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity increases perceived truth. So the more we hear something framed as dangerous, the more natural that framing feels. This is the amplification phase. It doesn't require coordination, it requires attention, and attention is abundant. Eventually, institutions respond. Policies are proposed, public statements are issued, rules are debated. At this stage, panic becomes formalized. The discussion shifts from, is this happening, to, what are we going to do about it? And once policy enters the conversation, positions harden, because now consequences feel concrete. But people no longer argue about interpretation, they argue about action. And action creates winners and losers. That's when debates become identity conflicts. Not all moral panics are the same. Some fade quietly when attention shifts. Some become normalized into long-term policy. Some transform into new debates entirely. But almost all of them follow the same arc: trigger, threat, simplification, amplification, institutionalization. And when you step back, you notice something interesting. The pattern repeats across decades, across cultures, across different issues. The subject changes, but the structure does not. Recognizing moral panic doesn't require dismissing concern. Some issues are serious, some risks are real, but panic and precision are not the same. When we understand the phases, we become less reactive and more analytical. And analysis lowers the temperature. Because once you see the structure, urgency stops feeling spontaneous. It starts looking patterned. And patterns can be evaluated. If you enjoyed this video, or if it helped you understand moral panics a little better, please like and subscribe. Maybe share it with a friend. And if you can think of something else you want me to cover, let me know in the comments, and maybe tell me one of your favorite moral panics throughout history. Thank you, and I will see you in the next videos.